Well, I have to say that this guy's story strikes me as much more in keeping with something that I might have done.
I am sure it came to a lot of people's attention that Kevin Spacey's name is back in the news. Channel 4 in the UK broadcast a two-part documentary called Kevin Spacey Unmasked, which makes fresh allegations towards the actor.
He was on top of me, and he's pressing against me. It was just completely out of the blue.
I only mention this as I made a video about Hollywood scandals before, in which I talk about Kevin Spacey's various court cases. So I was very interested to see if this documentary revealed evidence to prove Spacey was the predator he's claimed to be.
I don't want this to be a fucking victim thing, you know?
Over the course of 2 episodes, several men would tell their story about how Kevin Spacey was inappropriate towards them. These stories would involve more than one count of indecent exposure, unwanted touching, and one occasion of forceful penetration of a finger. But then there are other stories which sound like a gay man flirting, but with sensationalized tension music under it.
Think about like how many guys did it, went through and compromised what they really wanted to do or who they were fundamentally and did it and got nothing out of it.
What I found very interesting is that more than one of these men looked upon Kevin Spacey as a mentor figure, having only just met him and, by their own account, mentorship not being discussed.
And in that moment, I knew I was in a sell your soul situation because this was something that I did not want to do. But it was something that I was considering doing because of something that I wanted.
I guess I would ask, why don't these guys just come out and say it? If there's a pattern here, it really does appear to be one of men trying to use you.
Well, it appears to me that they think, which is entirely in their head, I might add, that if they tell me they're not gay, then I will walk away, which is to say they do not want me to leave, nor did they want to leave. So what they really want, as you just said, and what I believe has become evident, is to quietly put up with me in the hope that they'll be able to use me for some sort of gain.
Could it be possible that these men misinterpreted Spacey's interest as business, and Spacey misinterpreted their interest in him as romantic? When you frame it like that, it feels like just a misunderstanding, and one that must happen to the super famous all the time. But that's far less shocking than these filmmakers would like you to think.
What had happened in that bathroom felt like was leverage for me. Like, hey, I didn't go to the Inquirer. I'm gonna keep your secret, and you're gonna help me make my career.
There is one man who Kevin Spacey had come on to, who had written a script he wanted him to produce. So despite not being a homosexual and denying his advances in the past, he attempted to fillet Kevin Spacey in his car. What I want to know is, did Kevin Spacey know that this was a blowjob is better than no job kind of deal? Or did the writer just assume that if he metaphorically scratches Spacey's itch, then the script gets greenlit?
It felt like I was something that I had to do to get to where I wanted to go.
Well, it's interesting that he seems to claim that this was entirely his idea.
One man claims that Kevin Spacey inserted a finger in him during the press night of a play called Sweet Bird of Youth. That is, of course, the worst sort of behaviour, and a legitimate assault should it be proved true. It's also rather a brazen act for a then-closeted man to do in front of what must have been a sea of spectators, a large percentage of which are photographers. He claims to have been turned 45 degrees to avoid the lens's gaze, but even with that precaution, it sounds pretty risky. So if that man can find a photo of the incident, I'd say he has a pretty good case, and should pursue it.
He pulled me in closer, in his ear, in my ear, he whispered, "Don't worry about it." He did that, and then he just, like a shark, just moved straight through and moved into Kevin mode at a press night, so went and took pictures.
Another man claims that Kevin Spacey started pleasuring himself when they went to a screening of Saving Private Ryan together. So this must have been 1998, long before COVID killed cinema attendance. And Spielberg's movies were big back then, so I doubt the cinema would have been empty. Is the claim that he just flopped it out and started whacking it in front of everyone? It's an immersive movie, but I still think I would have noticed a grown man with his cock in his hand in front of me. Paul Rubens couldn't get away with the same actions, and he was in an adult movie theatre. All I'm saying is, if this happened, then there would be other witnesses. And maybe there are.
And I can only speak for myself, but your first reaction is not violence. It's, you feel like you did something wrong. You brought it onto yourself and you feel shame.
Quite the strangest inclusion in this production is BuzzFeed journalist Adam Vary, the man who wrote the article in which Anthony Rapp first claimed Kevin Spacey's impropriety, an account which has now been proven false in a court of law. But you see, this two-parter has been in production for a long time, long before the verdict of Spacey's UK or US trials were announced. And I'm willing to bet the producers didn't expect Spacey to be found not guilty. I know I didn't. And they didn't want to edit Vary out, as his commentary was plugging some large holes in the narrative, which exemplifies a level of laziness that belies this production.
So the letter starts, "Dear Mr. Spacey, I'm writing to you in order to give you a fair opportunity to reply to statements that we intend to broadcast in a two-part documentary that will be broadcast on Channel 4 on the 6th and 7th of May 2024. Please respond in writing by no later than Monday the 29th of April. So if I've got this right, Kevin, they spent nearly 2 years on this hit piece, and they think a fair opportunity is 7 days?
Yeah, and you haven't even got to the good part. These accusations date back to 1976, which is 48 years ago. I mean, you have to realize that it took me in the Rapp case nearly a year to find evidence that proved that he'd lied about this encounter he claimed he had with me, an encounter that never happened. And that was allegedly to have occurred 31 years prior.
I would like to make it clear that I'm not what you call Team Spacey. It makes no difference to me either way if he's found guilty or not, but he should be tried. I said this in the last video, but it bears repeating. Every opportunity he has been given to prove himself innocent, he has done so. And that has to count for something. I don't know what to make of the accusations. And why would I? Each one has to be taken on a case-by-case basis. You can't say he's guilty of crime A, so it stands to reason he did B, C and D. That's how mobs think. From what I hear and the sheer amount of claims leads me to believe that there is some truth in there. But I can't sit by and say, yeah, sounds true, he looks like the sort, just because some poor quality documentary leads me to think that way. If I'm team anything, then I am team justice, for that benefits everyone.
My greatest fear post-verdicts is that this will empower him to do it again, to feel emboldened in a sense, and that can't be.
If this cannot be proved, then it should be laid to rest. One or the other. I'm Scott Kingsnorth, and I'm making a movie.